Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Las Vegas Market and Atlanta Market. This is some of our summer programming leading into our summer markets, which will be happening later in August. Today we have a very unique group of people together who we want to celebrate. Today's topic is diversity in today's market, talking about design, showrooms, TV, every aspect of design and the marketplace that we have. And so our moderator is Cindy Hodnett, and this also is a CEU accredited presentation. So if you are seeking that, I will email you the form tomorrow and you'll receive that along with some extra information of how to be in touch with each of our designers here today. So Cindy, I'll let you take it away and welcome everyone.
Thank you, Kim. And guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We are absolutely thrilled with the star power that we have here. You know, as we were talking before, what I'd love to do is just let's go around the group and you guys introduce yourselves, tell our viewers a little bit about how you got started in the business and what you're up to today. And we can start with Breegan up at the top of my screen anyway.
Make me go first. I love it though. Breegan Jane, I am an interior designer and my passion is in everything creative, and it's been nice to segue that into a lot of TV opportunities this year, and I just am so grateful to be here and another creative among this panel. I feel humbled.
Wonderful. Rachel, how about you?
Hi, my name is Rachel Moriarty. I'm an interior designer. I'm in San Diego, California. And this is like my 6th career. I've always been a creative. I've taken a couple of really strange twists and turns through life. I started in fashion, and during the downturn in the economy, I went into private banking, obviously I'm a private banker. And then in 2015, I took the leap into interior design and haven't looked back since.
Great. Katrena, how about you?
My name's Katrena Griggs, and I have a showroom here at AmericasMart in Atlanta called Curated Home Brands. And I opened the showroom a year ago, actually, but have been working in AmericasMart for about 15 years, managing the showroom of Kadaris. Was their VP of showrooms for about 7 years. And then prior to that, Southern Accessories Today, I managed that showroom for about 5 years. I too come from a fashion background. And it was sort of a natural transition to go into home decor at the time that I did. I felt like there were many skill sets that, you know, transcend, you know, both industries, and have been very happy in doing so. In fact, I was telling someone earlier today, it's beautiful to be able to come to work in a place where you're around beautiful things all the time. You know, whether you're down or up, you just feel good about it. So I couldn't be happier about that. And then to have my own showroom makes me even happier. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Wonderful. And Mr. Ron.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ron Woodson. I'm the other half of Woodson and Rummerfield's House of Design, and also the Architectural Preservation Foundation, SIA, Save Iconic Architecture. And I've been an interior designer for nearly 25 years now, but I'm only 29. I started early. Yes, and so we have this great interior design firm in Los Angeles, and our passion, Jamie and I's, is architectural preservation. So that's a big part of what we're doing as well. And I'm glad to be on this panel with my lovely colleagues.
Wonderful. You know, just to build up on that a little bit, how do each of you, if you will, define your own niche within the consumer marketplace? And I know, you know, there's different pathways for each of you to the consumer, but give our viewers a little bit of an idea about how you see yourselves within the broader consumer market. And I'll just open it up to however you'd like to, which order you'd like to go in.
Well, as a showroom, you know, our customers are primarily designers and retailers. And on the occasion that a designer will bring their customer in with them, which I don't recommend, but just the same, it's always very interesting to get their reaction to this world. And they see it in such a way that they don't when they go to a retail store. And it kind of piques their interest a lot of times. And they start to think, well, maybe I can do this, and trying to figure out how they can come back on their own kind of thing. But I think that the consumer, you know, has so many opportunities now to shop and are looking and have many choices. And so I find that giving a good experience is the #1 thing that we have to focus on. You know, be it for the end consumer or our day-to-day clients that we work with, it's all about the experience and customer service. Those two, they go hand in hand, and in these days, you can't expect a customer to give you their business without giving them both of those services. And so that experience and customer service is most important, I think, to the consumer these days.
Okay.
It's not what was it Maya Angelou said, people will remember, they won't remember what you did, but they will remember how you made them feel.
Absolutely.
And so that holds very true.
Breegan, how about you?
I think it's also expanding on that is how their space makes them feel. So we've been fortunate enough to do a lot of private client work, but we also have done commercial experiences. And then with TV opportunities, I find that the advice that we have to give at a time that everybody's in their home and how they can react with their space is something that I get to experience and bring to the industry as a whole. We are still interfacing on a daily basis. I'm a mom at the root. I get asked questions all the time on those simple, basic lifestyle experiences and how it translates to spirit, mind, and body, especially right now. I think my creativity will always come out as for everyone on this panel. Like, we all are sort of artist nerds with like a fashion style and sense, but interior design and creating environments is a practice, and it's something we offer to the end consumer with a lot of knowledge, and this is a great time and opportunity to share from.
Ron, Rachel, how about you guys?
Well, Jamie and I, when we first formed Woodson and Rummerfield, we also had a showroom for 6 years on famed La Cienega Boulevard. And our showroom started out, we thought it was going to be, you know, the ladies who do lunch are going to come into our showroom. It was done like a house, and it turned out to be 85% of our business were other interior designers. We made it really easy for designers to shop. And even today, we still are a bit of a go-to, even though we don't have the showroom. We're still a go-to for other designers who call us, and we look at them as our end consumer. Obviously, we still have our design clients, we have other consumers, but we still have designers who call us, and we have a small product line that people still call about and are ordering. And right, and so it really started from there, and it was an interesting path for us. As I said, the showroom was done like a house. People would come in, you could buy a whole room. And so we still keep that mantra. Our office now is pretty much set up that way, and we have people that come here and want to buy from us. So again, I think that customer service is key. And also, what we do transcends, I'm going to dive into the diversity part a little bit too, because what we do really transcends color, religion, ethnicity, any of that. And I think that is one that I hang my hat high on, both Jamie and I, and I'm proud of that.
Wonderful. And Rachel, how about you?
Yeah, so I've created a fun little niche in the market, in my marketplace here in San Diego. And I like to say that clients really like magnetize a certain client to me. I put myself a lot visibly out there, and they call me to get them out of Browntown. So they have made a lot of safe decisions by the time they've, you know, picked up the phone to call me. They have like natural stone, a lot of wood, beige, and then they all of a sudden they're just like, oh my gosh, how, you know, how did I do this? And so not to say that they don't get cold feet the minute that they sign the contract and hand over the retainer, but they really want me to bring some emotion, you know, into their home. They want to feel a certain way, you know, they want to feel a little more vibrancy or a little more creative in their home. A lot of my clients are high achieving women, whether they are single or married. They're usually the breadwinner or the decision maker. And they are really into the home themselves. Sometimes I think they miss their calling and they love, you know, they're very into collecting art and traveling. So I have a really fun niche that I've kind of carved out for myself here in San Diego.
Oh, that's fantastic. You know, I think it's interesting, you know, listening to each one of you describe, you know, how you view really the niche for your businesses. And I think, you know, 2020, along with like the word social distance and you know, this type of thing, one of the key words has been pivot. We've all been talking about. You've had to pivot this year. How have each of you pivoted your own business strategies to address what's happening around us this year?
Well,
Go ahead, Rachel.
I didn't really have to pivot too much. I was an early adopter of e-design, not as the big e-design companies, but just was something that I offered myself. I got on, you know, online project management system early on. I've always like did a hybrid of deliverables, you know, in person and digital. And so it was kind of a little pivot for me. For me, the big change was that the clients were more open to it. You know, yesterday I had a couple site visits, and one of my clients who owns a law firm was doing a deposition on Zoom. And then I go to my other client who's a banker, and she's hopping on a webinar. So it's more that they're more open to it. Yeah. I always had the processes in my business.
Mm-hmm. And Katrena?
I would say, you know, I've said this before. I think that the industry itself has been a little behind in terms of the use of technology other than social media. And so, you know, as I saw what I thought was coming down the road, I started to make some changes in terms of doing presentations online for customers, and you know, sometimes customers that they've been in business for a very long time and they're not so savvy with technology. And so getting them, but they are becoming more, they're realizing that, you know, it is the way of the world and they're going to have to get on board with it. So it's taking them slowly. But that was probably one of the biggest things, and how to go about doing that. And to not only for myself, but even some of the sales reps that I have that maybe aren't as tech savvy, believe it or not. And anyhow, that's another conversation. But just that was a big piece of it. The use of technology, and how can we do that from home? How can we still continue to do business and be at home and do it by way of technology? So that's probably the biggest piece of it for me. And you know, it was really important to be in touch with customers and let them know that you are still there, that we can still service you. Designers have continued to be busy, and maybe even busier. There were retailers who were still doing good business, and so you couldn't just not be available. If it meant that I needed to meet them in the showroom, I was happy to do that, and still happy to do that, because once we came back to the showrooms and You know, at first we were just back by appointment, and then we opened it up to our customers. And I still have my hours modified, and probably after market, I'll go back to my normal hours. But I've always been very open to meeting customers here. I live 1.7 miles away from AmericasMart, so it makes it very easy to get here, and I can be here real quick. So that's probably the biggest piece of it for me.
Okay, and you know, Ron and Breegan, how about you guys? I mean, you're obviously West Coast based as well, and what pivots have you guys had to make this year?
A lot, but at the same time, the pivots have been more logistics, with vendors not being open, and then the shift to when we were able to start seeing clients again. Clients were ready to go at full force, but vendors were not. So we had to play this delicate game of keeping clients happy, and we're still doing that because everybody's still not up to full capacity.
Lead times are longer.
Right, lead times are longer. It's easier to explain that, and clients still sometimes forget that, and you remind them, and they get back on track. But I think that's been the biggest challenge for us. It's just been logistics, and also in our office we're very tactile, and we love to be in person. So when we first started coming back, you know, I probably was in the office more than anyone else, and so Jamie and I, we would talk on the phone, we would do video conferencing to talk about clients, and then which is so difficult. Jamie and I have been business partners for 17 years, and that period was the longest period we had gone without seeing one another. So that was difficult for us, and our clients, luckily right before the shutdown, we were going full force with several clients. So they were all ready to get back in the swing. But as I said, the logistical part has been a little difficult. But we're making it work. Yeah.
And Breegan Jane, how about you? Probably people feel like you're still there if they're watching the show, but from a business standpoint, what have you done?
Well, I think adaptability at the beginning was key because we had a mother with 3 kids living through a remodel. Schools got shut down. All of her bathrooms are torn up. That was a fun learning experience in terms of client work and the ability to lean into your leadership role on what is appropriate, what is right, what are we gonna do? I mean, and at the same time, you have the pressure of a client asking you questions that you don't know the answer to because we've never been here before. And you have to say that with honesty. So our client adjustments were forcibly very quick, and we got good at that early. But I do think in longevity of business shift, I was like, the whole world lives online. So how do we as a company go online and seek opportunity? Because I've got a staff, I feel, you know, they're my everything. And if we can't bring in client work because the world is shifting, where do I add value in my expertise and my talent where I can bring in income resources in our expertise? So that's been fun, and a way that has been a shift into media, but it's about making luxury attainable to everyone. That's kind of my thing. Like, I like a touch of gold, I like a little sparkle, but I am a lived-in beach girl. And I wanted to be able to allow that to come through the internet, you know, and what advice am I giving people? What am I offering them in terms of loving what I do?
You know, I think it's fascinating. You guys, you know, are all obviously leaders and you know, have been in the industry a while. You're veterans, but you know, as you think about other retailers, other designers who are in the same situation and maybe haven't been as quick to adapt or adopt, you know, there's always a silver lining. Where are some of the opportunities for those folks who might be wondering how to navigate this new normal that we have? What are your thoughts on that?
I would say the first thing is to be extremely transparent with clients. I mean, you just gotta, we are where we are. There's no dancing around it. But when you're honest and transparent, clients 9 times out of 10, especially now, are going to be receptive to that. So I say just be as honest and transparent as you possibly can.
I think we really have a great opportunity, to be honest, to, you know, we talk about a lot about building homes or creating spaces that represent our clients in our own homes, that represent us and our family and the people that live there. I think it's a great time to design a business that reflects us and our values, and to be actively seeking partnerships with vendors that are intentionally inclusive and, you know, show diversity. So for me, I am really going to be looking at my vendor lists a little more closely. I've always been really good at aligning who I work with my values. But I think it's the opportunity for us as designers to own it, own our power. Don't give your power away. Retail is going down. We've seen the lists of, from Nordstrom's to the Gap to all the store closures. We are the retailers. And I think it's a really, really important time for us.
I totally agree with you. I think that, there's a lot of different opportunities, out of a lot of change and what sometimes seems hard and difficult. There's a lot of creativity that happens during that time because you're problem solving. And so with that, a lot of new innovations come about. And so I think that yes, something as simple as doing a showroom presentation, there's so many other ways to go about it and different techniques to use. I think that you almost have to just jump in as best you can. And, if you have to back up a little bit to get a little bit more of that you don't feel as confident in to move forward, then you do that. But you have to be agile and nimble and innovative in your thinking and problem solving is the number one thing, because some of what we've become so used to, we don't have the luxury of as easily now. And so yes, you can sit and bemoan that, or you can get up and do something about it and be creative about it. And what is the song, come on, get happy. Yeah. So you just it's all with the attitude that you approach it with. And this is kind of one of those, it's either going to make you or it's going to break you.
Right.
It's an opportunity, I think, to redefine yourself, your practices, you're doing business with. It's opened up a lot of opportunity for us to look at our sourcing, even something as simple as being able to connect through Instagram and say, I like you. Do you make these? I think I wasn't leaning into those before because I have my ways and I have my stores and have my places. And so it forces you into creating new systems for yourself that might be better serving.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just wanted, I have to kind of piggyback on what Breegan is saying. Something as simple as I had a friend that reached out a couple of days ago asking if I knew of any black tabletop, manufacturers. And a couple came to mind, but there's not very many out there. And she was getting the information for someone else that had asked her. And so and yes, you can Google, but it still you're not able to really hone in on. And so I thought, well, let me see what the hashtags are. And so I went to Black Tabletop, and what it revealed to me is that if you don't use the right hashtag, then you're not going to get the kind of exposure that is available to you. And that was like if I learned anything, this week, that was a number one thing, the hashtag that you use, because it just showed me, I was able to find a couple of different ones by way of looking at craftspeople, and but it's really an important, that simple little tip is really important. And you would think, I mean, before this, I didn't think hashtags were that important, but it's changed my whole thought process with it. So it's about being open to new ways of doing business. And yes, I totally agree. You have to be able to change how you're doing, business, and know that you have to change. And even if you don't have to change, think about changing it. How can I improve this? What can I do differently? And in doing that, I mean, we're here talking about diversity. So with that, reaching out to, I know for myself in my showroom, one of the commitments I've made is to have more manufacturers that are Black-owned businesses that have product that they're bringing to the marketplace. So, it makes me, I'm thrilled to have Mitchell Black joining us. And then Forbes Masters, who are customers already, but, the fact that they're introducing a line, Johanna Howard and Nikki Chu. I reached out to her by way of Instagram. I will direct message. In fact, Breegan, I direct messaged you when I saw you, and I said, I am quick to direct message someone on Instagram. I'm that person. Yes.
Oh, please go ahead.
I was saying quite often there's an exchange there. So, we won't be, I don't expect that we're going to be the best of friends, but it is someone new that I know. So, that's just a new way of reaching out to people, of communicating with people.
And, I feel like, there are a lot of different definitions maybe of diversity that get bandied about. For each of you, just tell our viewers a little bit about how you view diversity, and then let's translate that and transition it into actually, sort of bottom line business, for lack of another way to describe it. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity out there to reach a lot of different types of audiences through product. So talk a little bit about maybe that pathway and how embracing diversity can actually empower businesses as well.
Absolutely. Well, here I go again. I think that, first of all, we live in a world that's a combination of many different people. And so there's a mix of cultures, and it's so rich of cultures and ethnicities, and we should be embracing that. This is the world that we live in, and we should be embracing, differences in people and finding out, because that's how you learn and that's how you grow. And so, if we find ourselves not doing that, then you have to really step back and look at yourself at why you're not doing that, because that's the only way that we're going to move forward. And so with that, this industry has not had as much diversity as it should. Everyone, I won't say everyone has a home, because not everyone has a home, but having a home and having beautiful things, and it doesn't even have to, what beauty to one is not beauty to the other. So when I say beautiful things, I'm not talking about expensive or, glitzy glammy, but any of those things that the comforts of home, the creature comforts of home, and even in its simplest form, but we all want that. Even if we don't have it, we're striving for that. And so this is an industry that's, by way of what it is, should be inclusive, because it appeals to everybody. And so the fact that it's not, and you find that it was really interesting for me, because coming into the home decor business, having been in the fashion side of it, it was eye-opening in a lot of different ways. And you have, from a manufacturer standpoint, you have some diversity, because you have product that's coming in from overseas, but the people who are working stateside in particular, it's not as diverse. And so, Breegan, did you have something?
No, I wanted to support one of the things that you were saying about spaces. I like to say interior design has always been thought of as a luxury, but at our human basic needs, we have three: food, water, shelter.
Yes,
So everyone
yes.
interacts with a shelter of some sort.
Yes, some sort.
And I think that's an important human part of our industry that we can lean into.
And, you know, that some sort, that shelter of some sort is probably going to become even bigger as we move forward, you know, with people who unfortunately won't have homes to live in. So they will need shelter of some sort. And, you know, what will that be? How can that happen? Does it need to be portable for them? So all those kind of things, you know, have to be considered. But, you know, again, it's an industry that is diverse from a manufacturing side, but to some degree, but within the industry, it's not as diverse. And so I would like to see, I hope to see, and it's great to see on this panel in itself, you know, Ron, I can't say I know him, but I've known of him for some time. And Rachel and Breegan, I've come to know of more recently. But there's some talented people out there who have been doing what they do for so long and have been in the industry for a very long time, just haven't had the recognition. And as I've said before in other panels, if you are having a panel and you, or workshops, and you put the faces of the people that are up there and you don't see a diverse panel, that's a problem. That should be the first red flag. Even before you put it up for advertising, as you're putting it together and you start lay out the pictures because you have the headshots, then that's the time when you should step back and say, okay, we need to mix this up. And even from a diverse, it's not just Black, you know, it's all cultures. So you want to see more of an international, if you will, presence of people.
Ron, Rachel?
Taking that a step further is having the opportunity for inclusion. I mean, I'm just going to put it out there. The design industry on a whole is the majority is white. Mm-hmm. And I think our white brothers and sisters have to take a look at this and be willing to open this dialogue and see that it's important. We can, and when I say we, I mean those of us of color on this panel can knock on the door as hard as we can, but we're going to have that support to open it up and for there to be this inclusion, to be real and sustainable. And you know, we're seeing these changes slowly but surely. I'm involved in a new foundation that's a takeoff from the DLN. It's called the DLF, and it's a Design Leadership Foundation. And what it's going to do is bring scholarships and to disadvantaged children and young adults. Because again, and I stress this all the time, if you don't see people who look like you, how are you ever going to really feel that you can attain? And so I've been fortunate for 20-some years to be in this industry and be successful. And I feel it's incumbent upon me to be a leader for those behind me. And it's not going to be a fast process. And I think, as I'm saying, it's going to take people like me who have been in this industry for a while to spearhead this. And Breegan and I we've had long conversations along this line. So it's not an easy fix, and it's challenging for some people to talk about, but if you don't talk about it, nothing's ever going to happen. And
I
so
find it interesting that's challenging for some people to talk about, because
Right.
sometimes you can even just kind of tell it in their body language, you know, for them to
Exactly.
say it. It's, you know, it's, it shouldn't be that difficult, and we
Right.
should be talking about it. And the more you talk about it, the more comfortable you become, you know, with it. So you have to talk about it. You know, we need to be having more and more conversations, and don't be afraid to ask the questions, you know, and as I've said before, you know, go down in terms of finding out who's out there. You know, if it's on social media, then go down the rabbit holes and, you know, see where it leads you, because it typically will lead you to others that are, you know, in the same mindset. But we can't be afraid to have the conversations.
And there'll be some stumbling, but that's okay.
Yes.
It's got to start. And I think now more than ever before, we are having these conversations. I mean,
we welcome the conversations.
We were on a panel last October. It was the first one ever that I had ever been on a panel of diversity in all the years I've been doing this. So I think we're at a time where people are ready to listen more than they were before and to open their eyes. But again, it's going to be a collective effort. And those in power have got to open their minds and hearts.
And diversify who's in power too.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one thing is that at the root, the word diversity means variety. And I am encouraged by our leadership positioning, because what we do in the physical, like Rachel, you sitting there, it's just, you celebrate all the different moments and you put them together in such a beautiful way that people are drawn to it. And so I'm excited to see how our ability to be artists at the root who understand the touches of culture can extend into our positioning of seeing more variety in a crowd that's industry led. But I believe that because of that, we can really be a leader across a lot of industries trying to adjust and change right now.
Absolutely.
Because we know variety is the only thing that makes great design, but it's also what makes great conversation and meeting of the minds. And I'm excited that, like with Ron, it's just, you've been in this industry for so long, and to learn from you and learn about you, and Rachel, like, you just bring it. And I'm like, oh, I need more color in my design. Working with any creative individual, you see you're able to look past the way something was intended and create conversation. So I'm encouraged.
You know, and I think you know, one of the things people will love, simple, get started steps. Thinking about, you know, some of the things that you've mentioned, and folks within the industry, whether in a showroom, a buyer at market, a retailer, a designer, you know, where are some of the sources? What are some of the things that they can do to maybe broaden their own perspective, both even about product design or product presentation, the things that they are actually putting out there to their customers? What are some of maybe like your helpful hints for rethinking what maybe has been a more traditional even product mix, for example?
Well, one of the things I will say is that in some product mix that has been available, in some cases it's come from Africa, and I'll use as an example, you know, baskets. I actually represent a brand now that has beautiful baskets that are sourced out of Africa. And people like to, instead of saying they're from Africa, they like to maybe say it's more global, and you know, call it what it is, because then people become more comfortable with and familiar with, and not trying to call it something else and like it needs to be repackaged. It doesn't, it's fine just the way it is, that it's from Africa. And you know, it just, so there's product out there that people, and even designs and some things, there's gates that have been designed that have Sankofa symbols in them. And, you know, the people who have the gates probably don't realize that, but in the design of it, that's what it is. But they may be calling it something else. So, you know, a lot of design that's out there has been not repurposed, but taken from places,
cultures,
other cultures.
Right. And that is always a hard question, because I've even heard, well, you know, what is Black design? Well, what's white design? I mean, if you're going to put it that way.
Yes.
But learning from other cultures, which is why I love travel so much. And, you know, again, this last period of not being on a plane since March has been one of the hardest things for me, because I glean from my travels and inspiration and I'm always constantly wanting to learn and mix. I mean, if, you know, people will ask, what's your style? If you're going to coin me to have any one particular style, it's a mix. And I love to bring and meld cultures from everywhere. And as you said, Katrena, saying that the baskets are from Africa, that's the way that it should be. There's those types of baskets, those particular types of baskets, they're not global, they're from Africa. So when you speak of it that way, that is educating and teaching people.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's putting it out there in showrooms and having showroom owners be more aware and cognizant of these very things. And again, just that simple thing of how you describe something. Because I go into showrooms all the time and I see, like you said, certain things like, oh, you know, that's from Africa, or that's from, or that's from, you know, wherever. It has a particular.
You can see the influence.
And not just, oh, that's French or that's English.
Exactly.
So.
I think it would be cool for, you know, for me, diversity means representation. I think it would be cool for the manufacturers to come to us and almost, well, I know Breegan and I have worked with the same company, come in and do a style takeover, like taking their products through our lens and sharing it in that way. Also talking to us about what's missing in the market. You know, I heard Cheryl Luckett from Dwell Divide Design on a podcast this morning. She's like, her clients look like her. She has Black clients and she cannot find a Black nude to put in a bathroom or in a bedroom scene. And, you know, I think they're missing an opportunity if they're not asking us what we are looking for in the marketplace, or if they're licensing someone, not licensing, you know, a person of color to help them with their line. So I'm working with a tile company that was a natural stone company, and they brought me in because they needed color. And so I think, you know, stuff like that, if like some of those licensing opportunities, it would be a miss not to bring in people of color, to bring another lens into their product offering.
Perspective.
Well, and I've sat in front of a fair amount of those heads of company, and it's a good old boy industry. When you're sitting in front of somebody that you're going to get a licensing deal from, and you know, maybe I won't get any more by saying this, but I'm going to be just frank and honest about it. You're sitting in front of, and I've had the situation where Jamie and I sat in the round and had this group of older white men, and we were right in the center of them. And it's like,
wow,
they didn't get us, we got them, but they didn't get us.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a hard sell. And in this particular case, it was very productive, and we did some beautiful work, but they did not know how to take us. And so, as you said, those powers that be need to change. There has to be people of color across the board that can have an influence on, because our world and our society is a huge mix. And when you have one singular group making the decision as to what is going to be in, and I'm talking about the major showrooms. I'm not talking about, you know, the smaller ones. But the major ones, I have never seen anybody. I haven't even seen women, let alone someone of color. I haven't even seen women.
And sometimes those businesses, you know, it's a family, another family member that comes in and continues to run that business.
Well, who knows nothing about anything. Don't get me started on that. But,
Cindy, you're on mute.
Put me on mute.
Oh, no.
No,
But
that
I
fires
hope that, you know,
because
that,
when, and I've been in the situation where I've tried to educate some of those, and they clearly think they've got it nailed.
How'd that go? I think that's what's so important though about market. I mean, we're here with Las Vegas Market. I think it was very eye-opening when I went, you know, to High Point, to Las Vegas Market, to any of the markets. You get a sense if you belong there or not, or if somebody thinks you belong there or not, you know, and I think that was probably the most empowering thing. I mean, I had to go all the way to High Point to find, you know, Mexican vendors, you know, and that I didn't know about, but I wouldn't have found them had I not been there. And so I think it's really important to show up and, you know, not wait for, you know, the other thing is the first time I went to market, I hosted a panel. I don't wait for people to put me on a panel. And so create those opportunities for yourself as well.
That's good. You're absolutely right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Katrena, I mean, you just hit it with the say where the basket's from. We have so many beautiful stories. Ron, I'm looking behind you and I'm like, how many cultures are sitting in the one square box behind you, and how can we highlight those and celebrate them and humanize this? Because it's not black versus white. It's every color of brown in between and every cultural influence that makes what we do such a creative expression of artistry.
Absolutely.
Like, used to sail looking for the best silks in the region, and like we are the paintbrushes that bring those into your homes as an industry. And it's
like
just
that. I like that, paintbrushes.
Love it. Well, guys, you know, as we wrap up, and I apologize, we're obviously having a few technical difficulties here in the office. So if I get kicked off again, you guys got this, I can tell. So we're all good. But, you know, as we wrap up, I would just like to give you the opportunity to really offer any final comments you might have about, and we've been speaking to it all along, but about why diversity is really imperative.
Uh-oh, there she went.
I think we got the gist.
We didn't get, but we'll just take it from there. We'll put our own end on it.
I think
Things to think
what
about.
we've all been saying throughout this hour or more is exactly what and why diversity is important. Learning about other cultures, being inclusive, being open to learning more and more, and being open to bringing those people in that you wouldn't see every day.
I totally agree with you. I would say with my hope is that the industry with new people, as new people come in and a more diverse group of people come in, then the people in those positions, the key positions and presidents of companies and such, and larger manufacturers, that the faces of those will change too, or the mix of that will be more diverse. And so I would hope that the industry has a very diverse future ahead of it. And I know that I will do my part in terms of bringing to light opportunities that there are, because, unless you are, I always say people fall into this industry, not so much on the interior design side, and it's not a falling in, because, Rachel said that you were doing private banking, and 2015 you decided you wanted and knew that you had the ability and the desire, and came into interior design. Well, there's so many other opportunities within the industry, even as a creative, from product development to merchandising, and a number of different things. And so I want to do my part as much as I can here, to reach out to young people, and not just Black young people, but young people across the board. And when I say diverse, I'm talking Asian, Black, Mexican, Latino, across the board, because there's so many people, they pass by this building every day. They have not a clue what goes on in here. And, right. They need to know, people need to know what goes on, what opportunities that there are within the industry. And as much as I can do that, that's what I'm going to do. And with that, I would hope that the face of the industry changes and becomes much more diverse in that.
Just to piggyback on that, you said that I jumped in fairly recently compared to Ron to the industry fairly recently. And I'm all about leading with impact. And, decorating is a gift. Being creative is a gift.
For sure.
But I think my calling is more to be inspiration for diversity in the industry, be a face of diversity in the industry, and definitely lead with impact.
And you do. And you do.
There's so much beauty in variety, and that includes diversity. And there's also hope in learning and asking questions about products and where things come from, but it does take courage to change.
Yeah, that's good.
Absolutely.
It does take courage to change. Yes, but we have to keep the conversations going so that people become comfortable with having the conversation.
Right. The conversation has to continue.
Yes.
It can't just be this panel and then we not have this.
Yes, and engage. Allow yourself to engage with other cultures. Let it be an experience. Enjoy the experience. It may be very different from what you're used to, but avail yourself to that, and you'll be very surprised of what you'll learn and what you'll get from that, and start to incorporate it into your life. And they will learn from you as well. So it's an exchange, because we have to, that's part of life. That's part of life.
Absolutely. Well, again, I want to thank you all for being part of this today. It's just really a starting point, really, with what we're trying to do at Market and International Market Centers. So please, we will continue to hopefully broaden everyone's perspective with these kinds of conversations. And, again, most appreciated for carrying on during the technical difficulty as well. Yeah. And, I'll let Kim wrap us up if we have any questions.
Yeah, at this time, we do have a couple questions. The first one.
Again, thank you again for your.
If you could describe your personal design aesthetic in 1 to 3 words, what would it be?
Maximalist.
Oh, wow. I kind of mentioned this earlier. I would probably say global. Because it's a real mix of everything. Like I didn't even think about what you, Breegan, you mentioned like behind me, like Asian cabinet, you got French, Greek, African, there's like this whole mix. So it's, I have to have the mix. I would be bored with any one particular.
That makes it interesting.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
The curated mix that even other interior designers are coming to you for. That's how you know you're the boss.
There you go. Exactly.
Thank you.
But for me, I think it's approachable luxury, but also a sense of modern. I like that cleanliness, that spa feel. But I want a douse of luxury, but it's got to be lived in.
Okay.
Another question. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, because that was for the designers. I mean, that's, you don't want to hear from me.
We love hearing from you. What changes do you think education should do in diversifying the industry? Whether it be architectural or interior design education, is there enough of an opportunity to afford everyone? And how would you suggest that those industries, the education portion, changes?
Oh, wow. This is kind of what we've talked about. I mean, it's been a long time, and I didn't finish design school like my business partner did. But in all that I went through, there was an even learning about various designs from around the world. It wasn't very inclusive about African art or even, I studied pre-Columbian art myself just because I have an interest in it, but that wasn't part of the curriculum. So I think a broader perspective on global design should be instituted in design classes. I mean, if we're going to talk about education that way. I mean, we learn about, columns and perspective and that type of thing, but global history is not that well versed in schools. So that's where I would see it.
I think the institutions, interior design or design institutions should probably do more in terms of reaching out to or making themselves more known to junior highs and high school students, so that they realize some of the opportunities that are there. Not all students know. I don't know how schools, I don't have children, so I don't know how schools are set up now. And, I had a counselor that probably recognized some creativity in me and directed me to attend the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising. And so not a lot of students, I think, understand that. Or know how to use their talents, know that they have some creativity, or maybe can't even put their finger on what it is. They just know that they like to draw or they like fashion or something, but don't know that they can actually build on that and have a career. So I think the schools themselves to reach out and make themselves more present in the junior high level and high school levels could probably be effective in reaching some of these potential new people.
And again, this is to piggyback off of what you're saying, Katrena. I think this is why it is incumbent upon, like myself, and I know Breegan has a lot of young people who are following her that are of color. And because again, and I've said this over and over, when you see people who look like you, you feel like you can attain that more.
Yeah, you realize, oh, I can do that too.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
carving out the space too with scholarship opportunities and seeking, you know, diversity when it comes to education as well. Not everybody gets exposed, like you're saying, Katrena, to the idea that this is even a thing. So
Opportunity.
in the spaces that we can go, hey, there's not enough opportunity. I'm not seeing enough of these kids here. I'm not seeing enough of those kids. You know,
Absolutely.
that's been long a leader in education overall. And I think we can do that in the design industry as well.
Here's a challenge. October is High Point. If each of us had one student that we brought to High Point with us to expose them to it, would be a great opportunity.
And we can also pick up the ball too, where people, you know, it takes a lot longer for these bigger institutions to pivot than it would be for us to fill in the gaps. And so I have a Facebook community of about 2,000 interior designers, stagers, and decorators. And I talk solely about, you know, owning your power and visibility and how to, you know, so we can, I think, also, you know, step in as leaders and fill in the gaps.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
And I mentioned the DLF that I'm a member of now, board member of. That is what the foundation is going to be doing.
Perfect.
Offering scholarships, mentorships. Mentoring is extremely, extremely important. So, you know, you can give a child, you know, throw some money at them, but they need to have the guidance to make their way through. And that's where, you know, mentorship, and I have stepped up to the plate.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
Because that's also important.
Well, and I also would say it's important for us to reach out to the young people, but I think that there are some professionals out there, you know, that are our age. I'm probably older than all y'all, but that we'll talk about that. But there's some professionals out there that may be looking to transition, maybe looking to make a career change. And so, you know, there's mentorship opportunities or that's needed in those on that level as well. And so, you know, we can't forget, because those can, some of them can easily step into some of these higher positions that we're talking about too, as they understand the industry.
Well, guys, you know, thank you again so much. We appreciate your time. We are, again, going to continue the conversation, and we'll go through, and I think we have a few more questions, but we'll round, you know, look at those and then circulate those a little bit later, but to be respectful of your time. And again, thank you. And we can't wait to see you guys at market, actually, again, in person.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Great to see all of you.
For bringing this platform to the public. It's long overdue, and we just have to continue this process.
Keep the conversation going.
Yes.
Right. Everyone,
Yes.
please stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.